Tangway.
Hello, committee. My name is Robert Tangway. I'm a Manchester resident. I oppose this bill. Uh, Not that it doesn't have, there's victims of sexual violence or assault, I'm sure. But I think it's a little bit rarer than we think. New Hampshire's a very safe state. What prohibits this bill is Article 15 of the New Hampshire Constitution. So Article 15 requires that any offenses, so that's limit offenses is wide, but crimes specifically must go through the criminal process. So there's a lot of incentives for people to make up things, especially with custody or living together. That doesn't mean that sexual assault is one of those crimes, a high crime that can't be undone. It's not like theft and anything like that. However, the state has a duty to prosecute and go through that process, which costs money, and then also protects defendants because the police can no pros or the prosecutor can no pros that, but further, it limits their ability to have a public defender, which is it's sacred. If you really need, if you get accused of sexual assault, the whole world will go against you.
Explain what you mean by it limits your ability to a public defender.
Well, because it's not the criminal process, you will not be afforded a public defender. And I mean, a sad truth, our government's not perfect. Our judiciary, even in the most perfect sense, works perfectly. Juries can be biased, convictions, people can get it wrong. However, if you have a lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer starves if there's no criminal charges. Public defenders don't want to work for low money. There's other ways for them to make money, typically. Now, when you have an ideal criminal defense attorney client would be every single rich person in the world to be charged with a high crime because they have the money to defend themselves and tie up prosecution. So that's my thought. It's solely on Article 15. We need to fund our courts better. We need to fund our police and go through the process because these are bail conditions. These are bail conditions without the criminal process. That's what protection orders are. That's all my testimony on the next bill. If you give me some leeway, that's really important to me.
We will. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for the major? Seeing none, thank you for your service and your time.
Thank you, sir.
The chair recognizes Mr. Robert Tangway.
Thank you, Honorable Committee. My name is Robert Tangway. I'm the author of New Hampshire Oliver Twist, and I'm a victim of this unconstitutional bill. To start out with, I'd like to read Article 15, just the pertinent parts.
Sir, just real quick, you said you were the victim of this unconstitutional bill. You meant you were talking about the law,
173,
not the bill, the law is what you were talking
the
about.
law,
Yeah,
173.
okay.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
clarification and for listening to me. That means a lot. So, Article 15, right of the accused. No subject shall be held to answer for any crime or offense until the same is fully and plainly, substantially, and formally described to him, or be compelled to accuse or furnish evidence against himself. Every subject shall have the right to produce all proofs that may be favorable to himself, to meet the witnesses against him face to face, and be fully heard in his defense by himself and counsel. No subject shall be arrested, imprisoned, or despoiled, or deprived of his property, immunities, or privileges, put out of the protection of the law, exiled or deprived of his life, liberty, or estate, but by the judgment of his peers or the law of the land, provided that in any proceeding, blah, 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 good constitute, they amended the heck out of that. 173B is facially unconstitutional. There's no application. You have a duty, respectfully, under official oppression, which is a crime, to repeal this bill at the very least. This bill must be repealed. The Supreme Court's hiding because they're involved in it. They get federal grant money and they control federal grant money. I have an opportunity notice from the New Hampshire Department of Justice where they protect only women training police, prosecutors, and judges. Those judges, because this all goes through the circuit court currently, are family court judges. So they're all biased against men, which is federally unconstitutional. I am suing the Manchester police. They do a tremendous job. The bottom line is that the police don't want to deal with all this nonsense, right? And we don't want to pay for all this. But there is a bias. We've gotten past a lot of bias, racial, but it's gender now. This is the big thing. If this bill were to pass, it would get it in alignment with the Constitution. So I do support it. However, it creates liabilities for our police with shall. And in statutes, I don't have these exact statutes right now, but I've read it multiple times. Violence is physical bodily injury. That's it. That's what domestic violence is. But you have all these other enumerated crimes, by the way. They say these enumerated crimes, a pickle is still a cucumber, a yellow school bus is still a bus. It is a crime or an offense, which is a civil tort. So, and I appreciate just a little bit because I do want to go through with this. So you got section 1, abuse in the new format and the old one. These are all enumerated crimes. The only crimes that are domestic violence with other statutes are assault, threats of assault, and sexual assault. Criminal threatening is also would be a threat of violence. In harassment, under harassment, parts of harassment has been ruled unconstitutional, but not statutory. They have not repealed those laws. I've talked to now, I guess, retired Deputy Thomas. It's all the lawyers. The lawyers are making tons of money. That's why it's grant money. It's a slush fund. This needs to be repealed. Right now, I'm suing the city of Manchester. We're going civil. I am not a violent person. Attorney Cullen is representing city of Manchester. The word shall places liability on the police. So we really have to get this right, because what's going to happen is with this bill, you're going to have a bunch of duties but you can't really sue, and you can sue. So that's what we're fighting over, a motion to dismiss. Do I have the right? I say Article 8, the government shall be held accountable. There's no immunity in New Hampshire. I think that you guys should add a monetary civil cause of action. And I'd also like, our director of insurance was charged criminally with domestic violence, and those charges have been dismissed. And now, and I don't know all the details about it, but that's important. A little bit about me, just real quick. I haven't seen my children in 3 years. The mother of my children, through her lawyer, wrote a fictitious domestic violence petition to gain strategic advantage in the family court. So even as it's destroying families, which is all types of constitutional violations. There was no claims of physical or sexual abuse because there was none. She didn't testify as she's supposed to, as the Manchester police have on their website for civil even. Her lawyer testified for her. The judge wrote physically and mathematically impossible findings of fact. They've conveyed that fraud for a 7-year bail condition, and then ordered me to violate the protection order, and then held me in contempt. We have a real big problem. You guys have to repeal this bill. You must repeal it. You must. And then you guys can figure out how to make it in alignment. This bill, I've gone through it. If it were to pass, it'd be constitutionally sound. There'd be some issues. And that's my testimony. If you guys have any questions, I'd be really happy to answer them, and I'll try to make it brief.
Just again to clarify, you support the bill except for the shall arrest part. You find may cause some liability issues for the police. Was that correct?
That's correct. Just to expound upon that, crime is rare, except for that the government. So the prosecutors have prosecutorial immunity; they can choose. Um, it's we don't need to overburden our police, because then there's also liability to prosecute the people that lie, and you can't really prove that someone lied. It's very difficult. It's just going to tie up a lot. Thank you.
Clerk has a question for you about your information.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm you checked off both support the bill and oppose the bill.
Mhm.
So is it support if amended? I just want to make sure this is accurate.
Well, I'm telling you respectfully,
Yeah.
you all have the duty to repeal and bring to the House and the Senate that this is unconstitutional. Article 15. The Supreme Court will not hear it. They are gerrymandering cases to not hear it, to fit their narrative. And so if this bill were to pass this committee as written, I'd rather have that than it not pass. It's complicated. I support it. You guys got to do your work,
We got
though.
it. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Everything we tell victims to do. She reported, she sought help, she sought protection. But the law hadn't caught up with the realities that she was experiencing. We cannot bring her back, but we can honor her by ensuring that women who are living in New Hampshire today in her very same circumstances are able to receive the protection she wasn't afforded. I urge you today to vote ought to pass, and I will take any questions.
Seeing no questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who's after? The chair calls Mr. Robert Tangway.
Good almost afternoon. Thank you for hearing me out. I oppose this bill. My name is Robert Tangway. Couple housekeeping things. I thought they were talking about the government there with coercive control. Coercion is illegal. You're not allowed to do it, but you have to have power to enact it. And the government has all the power, and so do people with money. So do the police. Now, couple housekeeping things. This is not in the criminal context, so it cites, but coercive control is not a crime in the state of New Hampshire. Secondly, a person is not a victim until there's a conviction. And that's what happens all the time. We're saying victims. I've heard judges say victims, victims, victim. That shows bias. There's different types of due process, as an earlier gentleman's statement. One, procedural, notified, come to court, and then there's substantive. Substantive due process is how they can manipulate the court systems. Unbiased jurists, whether it's a judge or a jury, violation of the law, which would be a biased judge, and so on. These are not meant to be punitive. Actually, the Constitution prohibits punitive punishment. It's for reform. That's what we're here for, is reform. So it's not punitive. In a civil context, punitive is only allowed in a couple different things. One of them is lying on a financial affidavit, where it's treble, punitive. We don't do that in New Hampshire. There's a very important case called Knight versus Mayer, 2011. Everybody's aware of it. It's a man appealed a protection order, and the New Hampshire Supreme Court said, sorry, there was no physical abuse. That is the Supreme Court's ruling. That is the standard. Domestic violence is physical abuse. That's it. I oppose this. And I also, another thing of housekeeping is, I don't know if people who are lobbying and get grant money should be testifying for things that could make them money. It's just a thing. I actually have a audio of a judge. So what happens is the victims, they go to the police tell them to go get a domestic violence. So there's a standard probable cause, which is pretty low. Articulable suspicion, probable cause, preponderance of the evidence, which is what this bill is, preponderance of the evidence. 173B is unconstitutional. You guys have to repeal it. You have a duty to. So the police are saying, we don't find probable cause. Then they tell them to go get a protection order, and then the judge makes up lies sometimes or whatever. But you hear women, 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 women. I'm allowed to discriminate against women. You are too. You are too. I'm not saying you do. I'm allowed to discriminate against men, gays, blacks, all that. I don't. However, the government is refrained from by federal and New Hampshire Constitution. I know Sergeant O'Mara. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think he's still sergeant. I've talked to him. I mean, these people are, even the people who go against me aren't all bad. There's good things a part of it, but I just, 173B is unconstitutional. This is not in the criminal context. This is when you get a restraining order, you're suing the other person. And this skips having to pay for filing fees in the Superior Court. You can ask for money. They can ask for money, the children, all that stuff is part of 173B. And that requires a jury trial over $1,500, by the way. So that also violates procedural and substantive due process. If you have any questions, please repeal 173B. That's what we need to do. Any questions?
I don't see any. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
For your testimony.